Welcome to Mysterious Encounters. When we imagine ancient power, we picture kings, warriors, empires rising and falling under the command of rulers whose names still echo through history. But in the earliest cities of civilization, there existed another class of power, quiet, hidden, almost invisible. They did not rule with armies, they ruled with symbols. They were the scribes, and in the first civilizations of Mesopotamia, they controlled the most dangerous technology humanity had ever created, writing. To understand the scribes, we must return to Sumer, southern Mesopotamia, around 3000 BCE, the land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. This was not just another ancient culture. It was the birthplace of cities, Ur, Uruk, Lagash, Eridu. For the first time in human history, thousands of people lived together in organized societies. Trade expanded, taxes appeared, temples accumulated wealth, and suddenly, memory was no longer enough. You cannot run a civilization on memory alone. Grain shipments must be tracked. Land must be measured. Labor must be recorded. Debts must be enforced. And so the Sumerians created something revolutionary, a system of marks pressed into wet clay. At first, these marks were simple, pictures of grain, livestock, goods, but gradually, the pictures became symbols, and the symbols became language. This was cuneiform, the first writing system humanity ever produced. But writing created a new problem. Not everyone could read it. Cuneiform was difficult, extremely difficult. It required learning hundreds of symbols, complex grammar, precise technique with a stylus pressed into clay tablets. This knowledge could not be learned casually. It required years of training, and so a new profession emerged: the scribes. Scribes were not ordinary workers. They were specialists, members of a tiny elite, trained inside institutions called edabas, the tablet houses. These were the first schools in human history. Inside them, young students spent years memorizing symbols, copying tablets, practicing calculations, studying contracts, learning laws, learning myths, learning history. Becoming a scribe was not easy. Students wrote thousands of practice tablets. Many of those tablets still exist today, covered in corrections, mistakes scratched out, teacher instructions carved beside them. Education was strict and access was limited, because knowledge was power. A scribe could do something almost no one else could do. They could read. And in the ancient world, the ability to read meant control over reality itself. A scribe could record taxes. They could document ownership. They could write legal decisions. They could preserve religious texts. They could store information beyond human memory. A king might command an army, but the scribe controlled the records. Without the scribes, civilization itself would collapse. The scribes worked closely with temples. And temples were not just religious centers. They were economic headquarters, grain warehouses, land managers, banks. The priests needed records. The kings needed laws. The merchants needed contracts. And every one of those systems depended on writing, which meant they depended on the scribes. Some of the most important texts in human history passed through their hands: the Epic of Gilgamesh, the Code of Yarnamu, early astronomical records, trade contracts, medical texts, ritual instructions. Everything we know about Sumer exists because scribes wrote it down. But this also means something else. History itself was filtered through them, because the scribes did not just record knowledge, They selected it. They preserved what mattered to the system, and they ignored what did not. Every civilization does this. Every archive is incomplete. Every record is curated, which means the first historians were also the first editors. The scribes eventually became more than record keepers. They became advisors, administrators, scholars, political instruments. Some rose to high positions in royal courts. Others became temple officials. Their influence stretched across generations. It's because once writing existed, the system that managed it could never disappear. Think about what writing truly does. It freezes information. Words that once existed only in the air become permanent, fixed, official. A spoken promise can be denied. A written contract cannot. A spoken rumor disappears. A written law remains. Writing stabilizes power, and those who control writing control the system. Over time, other civilizations inherited this structure. The Akkadians, the Babylonians, the Assyrians, the Persians, all of them relied on scribal classes. Each empire built new archives, new records, new systems of knowledge management, but the pattern never changed. The scribes remained the gatekeepers. Even today, the descendants of the scribes still exist, not in clay tablet houses, but in institutions, universities, governments, archives, media organizations, technology companies. The tools have changed, the symbols have evolved, but the principle remains the same. Information is power, and whoever organizes information controls how civilization remembers itself. The Sumerian scribes were not warriors. They did not conquer lands. They did not build empires with swords. They built something far more enduring. The first system of recorded knowledge. The first information infrastructure. The first written memory of humanity. And once that system began, it never stopped growing. Because from that moment forward, civilization no longer depended on what people remembered. It depended on what was written. And those who controlled the writing controlled the story.